some MSAs, we are going to check Wednesday's homework on Monday because Mr. Phillips ran out of time to make a podcast for it. So we will check Wednesday's homework on Monday. So make sure on Monday you have workbook page 53, problems 3 and 4 done. Also, nice segue, Mr. Phillips, plus Swedish fish for you, unless you're on probate. Also on Monday, make sure that you have your EOC review packet done. We have worked out all 10 problems at Blackboard, so if you have any questions, check them out. We're still keeping an eye out for week 7 scores. You are going to start your chapter 5 test today. You can finish your chapter 5 test tomorrow.
Please take a moment and check out your exam or CCE schedule for Algebra Math Plus. Block 3 and 4, your CCE for Algebra will be Monday. Blocks 1 and 2, blocks 5 and 6, your CCE will be on Tuesday.
Don't forget your CCE, or math semester exam, does count for a grade, so it's important that you do your best when you take it.
Today's lesson is going to be 5.5. We're going to write equations of perpendicular lines. So please write your spiral lesson 5.5, equations of perpendicular lines. This will be part 4 of 5.5. Parts 1, 2, and 3 were on parallel lines.
And another great segue, another Swedish fish for Mr. Phillips, unless he's on probate. But don't worry, I'll work it off. Remember that in our previous podcasts, we said if the lines are parallel, they have the same slope. Parallel lines always have the same slope. So one of the questions we're going to take a look at today, do perpendicular lines have the same slope? Do perpendicular lines have the same slope? Remember that perpendicular lines are going to intersect, more specifically, they're going to intersect at a 90-degree or right angle. So perpendicular lines can look like the letter X, like we have on the screen, or they could look like the letter L, or they could look like the letter T, or an upside down T. So the question is, do perpendicular lines have the same slope? Well, these would be perpendicular lines. Looks like the letter X. They're going to form 90-degree angles. Notice that the green line has a positive slope. The yellow line has a negative slope. So the first question we're going to answer today, do perpendicular lines have the same slope? Mrs. Phillips is going to probate. I would say no Swedish fish to Mrs. Phillips for interrupting, my Power Packed Phillips podcast, but that wouldn't do anything to her. So I'll say no Dove chocolates for her. Oh yeah. She's on Dove chocolate probing. So the question is, do perpendicular lines have the same slope? One slope is going to be positive, one slope is going to be negative. So our answer is, you got it, no. So if you tell me perpendicular lines have the same slope, you get this. Perpendicular lines do not have the same slope. In fact, with perpendicular lines, one slope is going to be positive, the other slope is going to be negative. So the next question is, what kind of slope do perpendicular lines have, besides one being positive and one being negative? You do not have to write this down, just watch the screen. We have a pair of perpendicular lines. They form 90-degree angles. I'm going to find the slope of the red line. So this slope is going to be a rise of 1 and a run of 2. So we have a rise of 1 and a run of 2. So the slope of the red line would be a rise of 1 and a run of 2. Now keep in mind, that this red line is a negative slope. It's a negative slope. So I need to put my negative sign over here in front. Now let's find the slope of the black line. Let's find the slope of the black line. Rise over run. So I've picked 2 points. Rise over run. My rise is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. My run is going to be 2. So I'm going to simplify 4 over 2. And 4 divided by 2 gives me 2. This is a positive slope. This is a positive slope. So it might be kind of hard for you to see, but let's go down to the bottom and then I will come back up to the top and it should make sense. If you would, please write on your paper that the slopes of perpendicular lines are reciprocals of each other. Please write on your paper, the slopes of perpendicular lines are reciprocals of each other. And write on your paper, the slopes have opposite signs. So perpendicular lines, the slopes are reciprocals and they have opposite signs. One is going to be negative, one is going to be positive. Now let's go back up to the top. If they are reciprocals of each other, let me get rid of this so I have some more writing space. If they are reciprocals of each other, this slope was 2. I can make 2 a fraction by giving it a denominator of 1. The reciprocal of 2 over 1, remember reciprocal means you flip it, so 1 goes to the top, 2 goes to the bottom. Remember the signs are opposite. So for this one, our sign was positive. Remember that was a positive slope. For my red line, my slope was negative. So hopefully you can see that the slopes of perpendicular lines are reciprocals of each other and they have opposite signs. So let's practice a couple more. You might want to write on your paper perpendicular lines and draw yourself a little chart and write slope at the top of the chart. And you might want to write yourself a note that perpendicular lines have reciprocal slopes and they are opposite signs. Reciprocal slopes and opposite signs. So let's practice a couple of these so you are masters and better than the Bears at slopes. Although the way they're playing right now, lost 4 out of 5. Anybody could be better than the Bears. Even the Jets or Titans, and that's a stretch. Did you know the Jets might make the playoffs if they run the table and win 3 in a row? Focus, Mr. Phillips. Sorry. Okay, here we go. If I want to know the slope of a perpendicular line to 2 over 5, first thing I have to do is the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 2 over 5 is 5 over 2. I flip the fraction. Now, they have opposite signs. This was a SPY for the positives, so if they're perpendicular, opposite signs, this one is going to have to be negative. Alright, what about if I give you a slope of -3, and I want you to find the slope of a perpendicular line? Well, the first thing you should do is make this a fraction. Now, if we want to find the slope of a perpendicular line, we do the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 3 over 1 would be 1 over 3. And we said the signs are opposite. So, if this one is a negative, the signs are opposite, this slope would have to be a positive. Opposite signs. Alright, let's practice two more. If I ask you to find the slope that is perpendicular to a slope of 6, you should make 6 a fraction by giving it a denominator of 1. Do the reciprocal, flip this, that gives you 1 over 6. Do the opposite sign, this was a SPI for the positives, so the reciprocal slope has to be negative. And the last one, find the slope that is perpendicular to 7 over 4. Do the reciprocal, flip this fraction, get 4 over 7. Remember, perpendicular lines have opposite signs. One is positive and the other is negative because of their slopes. This was a SPI for the positives, so the perpendicular slope has to be negative.